This is our 2022 factory-built RV-12 IS. It's equipped with dual Garmin 3X Touch and a Garmin Autopilot. My name is Steve, and this is my wife Gail. We call this S&G Airline. So subscribe to the channel and fly with us to exciting places. Actually, in this episode, we're not going to fly anywhere. Instead, we're going to talk about the cost of ownership of an RV-12. Now, I bought this airplane toward the end of September last year, and we're 6 months into the ownership. So looking back at the expenses that we've incurred, laid out this simple spreadsheet, and so let's kind of go through the numbers and share with you what our experience has been. So on the spreadsheet, I've filled in over the last 6 months the number of hours that I flew each month and the fuel prices that I paid. Unfortunately, as you can see here, the last 5 months or so have not been good for flying. I've gotten very little activity in. I'd hope to always fly maybe 15 to 20 hours a month. But the weather here in the southeastern United States has been marginal VFR or even IFR for a good bit of that time. So even if I don't get to fly that much, if all I had to consider was the price of fuel, the hourly cost is pretty darn attractive. It takes me back to like the 1960s when I first learned to fly. I could rent a Cessna 150 wet for like $12 an hour. And that's pretty comparable to what I'm showing for February. Starting in October, we were lucky enough to get access to a hangar. So from that month forward, there's $400 a month in hangar expenses. I want to keep the airplane in a hangar to protect the paint from the UV rays and also to protect the electronics from the heat of the sun. But as you can see, there is a price for that. I run 100 low lead in the airplane because MoGas is just not available at the airport where I fly. So at the end of 25 hours of flight, I have to change the oil. And I choose to use a mechanic to do that rather than do that myself. I'd really rather have that kind of an endorsement in the logbook. Scheduled maintenance is one thing, but unscheduled maintenance can be a killer too. So in November, I had a problem with the engine wouldn't start, and so I had to have the mechanic take a look at that. And then here in February, Rotax came out with a service bulletin on the fuel pumps that needed to be inspected. So once again, that's an unexpected expense. The next big expense that we incurred is the annual premium for the insurance on the airplane, which shows up in the September column. So that wraps it up. That's pretty much all the expenses that we've incurred. This has been our experience over the last 6 months. And looking forward, I hope to fly the airplane more to get a different ratio between what it costs me per hour and what I'm spending in fixed expenses. Your experience may be considerably different than this, and if so, I'd love to hear about that in the comments section below. But as for me, I'm hoping that as the summer months approach and we can have better weather to do more flying, we can get the airplane out of the hangar more and run down that per hour expense to make it something more reasonable.